Hello everyone, welcome to another Star Wars figure tutorial, and today I'm going to be showing you how to go about fixing the brand new Black Series Phase 1 Clone Trooper. Okay, so real quick, here's why this mod is needed. If you look at the two clones side by side, you can see that the left one isn't quite as good as it could be. I don't think it's a bad figure, but I think that there were a lot of kind of strange design decisions and cheap things done. I have no problem with the legs really, besides the fact that they put the knee pad armor on the thigh, so it looks really weird. If you try and put them in like a like some sort of kneeling pose, it just looks wrong, right? So my fixed version though has the knee pad in the correct spot, or it's flexible so you can move it, so it'll look and be in the correct location. You can actually get the kneeling pose correct with the knee armor, whereas with the original it's just kind of on the side of the thighs like that, which isn't really right. Additionally, if you look at the helmets, the new clone helmet is it's way too big and it's like super rubbery. So they often come like warped and misaligned. They also messed up the paint apps on the Frown. It's not long enough. Head's too big for the body. They didn't paint in the chin at all. So if you look on the right, the chin is painted in. Hasbro one doesn't have the chin painted in. So yeah, I just used an entirely new head for this to fix that. Also, the shoulder armor is too small for clones, so I put bigger shoulder pad armor. And the biggest problem I have is that the torso on this guy is way too long. If you look in the movies, basically the bottom of the torso armor should line up with the top of this box. This guy's like freaking Slender Man. His torso is like the size of a giraffe or something like that. So we're gonna reduce that too. He still has some movement here, but the torso is much more correctly proportioned. So I'll show you guys how to do all of that. Isn't too tricky, just takes a little bit of know-how, so let's do it. First thing you're going to need is one of the brand new Black Series Clone Troopers. Got them right there. Also going to need one of these knockoff Clone Troopers. I got this guy from eBay. Only cost about $15. Mainly just going to use him for his helmet and his shoulder pads. Also going to need some hot glue and Vaseline. This is to make the joint inside the head. I recommend having some nail polish remover and these are basically really fine detail Q-tips. This is just for doing some cleanup detail work. I recommend using, as far as paints go, gloss varnish. This is made by Vallejo. Any sort of red paint will do just fine. And then this is Vallejo Air Neutral Gray, Vallejo Air Black. These are going to be used to paint in some of the details on the helmet. Clean it up a little bit. So like for the visor, you want to use the black paint and then the gloss varnish to make it shiny. Also like the chin and details like the back of the helmet, the gray band. You're going to want to use these colors for that. The red is they're supposed to be a little light in the back, and we're going to have to paint that on too. So all these colors I recommend using. The red color doesn't really matter, just any sort of red will do. I also recommend using some sort of drill. I know you need a 1/16 drill bit, also a bigger drill bit. About this size will work too. I want to say this is like 3/8, not positive. But yeah, drill bit with some extra drill bits is good. Next thing I would recommend is getting some Beetle-On extra large necklace memory wire. This stuff I got from Hobby Lobby. It's super strong, which means that it's good for keeping straight, and it's used to make the torso joint inside, so I would get some of that. I wouldn't just get any thin wire, because this one I used a couple different wires to eventually settle on that one, because if you use too thin of a wire, it's too bendy, it won't really work very well. So yeah, this necklace memory wire is awesome for that. Also some wire cutters to cut that, because it's pretty tough. I also recommend using a blow dryer. This one I just got from Target for like 20 bucks. I know in my last video I suggested boiling clones. I no longer recommend that, boiling, because it can cause the plastic to yellow. It'll like denature the dye. So instead I would use a blow dryer, because it will not affect the plastic and it'll keep it nice and white. So yeah, if you can, I would go out and just try and get one of these blow dryers. Any blow dryer will do. Just as a good way to heat up figures and be able to pop them easily without dyeing the plastic. Finally, I recommend using a gloss clear coat to finish them up. Obviously some sort of very thin paintbrush, nice X-Acto knife to do some cutting, and some super glue. And that should be everything. Alright, the first step to fixing this guy is going to be to blow dry him to make the plastic soft so we can pull it off. Just going to go ahead and blow dry him for a couple minutes. Let's go ahead and do that. Alright, the plastic's been softened, so now we can go ahead and just pull everything off. We're going to take the helmet off first. Just gotta pull that off. Now we have to take out the shoulder pads. There's one, and then there's two. So now the helmet's removed, the shoulder pad's removed. Also going to take the knee pads, just going to pull those off. Just start from the top and then work your way down. With the knee pads, some are a little difficult to pull off, so if they're giving you trouble, you can just take your X-Acto knife and just cut into them. All you're doing is just going right on top and just cutting it so it's flat, just like that. Just gonna cut off the little peg in there. You can kind of see him, he's right there. Just gonna cut that little white peg down. Nothing too fancy about this. Just make sure you don't cut the sides. There we go, there's one. I actually prefer cutting the peg because then it's just flat here, so you can just paint over here. Gonna do the second one now to free the knee pad. I like to pull it down a little first, like that, just so I can see it, and then I can cut it. Pull it down, and cut. Alright, so now both knee pads are free. So next thing I would do is I would just paint the top of those little bits white or black. So just get that black paint you have and just paint those. Again, just using Vallejo Air Black, just gonna paint that on. Looking pretty good. Gonna do the other one now. And we got him. There he is. Just let these dry for a little bit. While they're drying, we're gonna go ahead and paint the knee pads. If you look on the back of the knockoff clones, they actually got this right. The back of the knee pad straps are painted gray. But the official Hasbro figures are unpainted, so the knockoffs actually are more accurate than the Hasbro figures. If you look at the helmets too, this one has they're missing the paint apps on the chin, but then the knockoff has the right paint app. So the $15 knockoffs are more accurate paint-wise than the $20 official figures. Nice. Just gonna use this neutral gray to paint the back of the knee straps. Again, I'm going to use that small thin brush to do it. Just going to get a bit of gray on my brush, just a tiny bit, and just go along the sides. There's one. Now for the other one. Next thing you want to do is you want to fit the shoulder pad to the armor. Basically what I was just doing is if you look at these shoulder pads on the inside, there's kind of these like blocks you can see right here. These are normally designed to fit onto like armor or fit into a peg on the armor. But since there's no peg now, we want to just drill those away and not allow the armor to sit flush with the shoulder and look a lot better. You can use like an X-Acto knife for this, but I recommend using a Dremel just because it's so much, it literally takes like a second to do, instead of having to like carefully carve that out. So I'm just gonna do that real quick. You see now we got rid of most of that block, so now the armor will sit much more flush with the shoulder once we put it on, just like that. Next thing we're going to do is shorten the torso joint. This method I'm about to show you was actually developed by someone, a user named Frowny Man. Frowny Man does really good head repaints for commissions, and he came up with this great idea, so I'm just going to show you how to do it. This is his method, all credit goes to him, but it is the best one I've found so far, so let's do it. First thing you're going to do, I recommend, is heating up the body again with the blow dryer. This will make the plastic a little more pliable and make it a little bit easier to do some cuts. Alright, so we're done blow drying him. Now we're just going to cut that torso. To do that, we're just going to take our X-Acto knife we have, and we're going to bend him forwards at the back like that. There we go. And inside there's a little black peg in there. We're just going to cut that. You want to be careful when you cut not to apply so much force that you keep cutting and then cut into the back armor. So I would just say be very slow and deliberate with this. Put that right there, and then I'm just going to cut. There we go. They're now separate. Mine got a little bit damaged in the back. It's not a big deal. I would just sand this. Mine, I always have my clinchers posting it from the front anyways, so I'm not too worried about that. So now we're going to go here. The next thing you want to do is you want to try and cut this little peg here in the back. You want to make that as short as possible. It's easiest to cut it from the bottom as opposed to the top because you get a better angle on it. I'm going to show you do that real quick. Just put it down. I just like to get my X-Acto knife and just put it as deep as possible. I would say you're cutting off almost a centimeter from this little peg. There's one. And I like to go around like in a circle kind of rather than just cut it flat. I like to kind of go around and get it from another angle. This will help it to become more flat. Here we go. Let's do one more. Cool. The way you can test if you cut enough is that you put the torso on top. You can see here I've definitely cut enough because now look how well it sits right there. It's like perfect. Whereas before it was like up here, now it sits down here, which is what we want. Next step is going to be to drill a hole so we can put the wire through. I'm going to use a 1/16 drill bit on my drill. Just go straight down on both sides. Alright, so I have my 1/16 drill bit and ready to go. You just want to make sure that the ball joint is sort of like aligned properly so it's straight up and down. Then you just get your drill bit. You want to put that so the tip is right there in the middle. We'll make sure it's going straight up and down, and then just drill in. Okay, now you want to do the same thing for the upper joint. Just go right down the middle, the top, and then just drill in. Alright, now that we have both holes drilled, we can now put our wire through. I'm gonna get my Hobby Lobby wire. Gonna strengthen it out, take it out. Just gonna put it sort of straight. This stuff's very stiff, it doesn't bend much, which is nice. So you want to straighten it out. It doesn't need to be perfectly straight, just enough so that you kind of get a good approximately straight line. You want to get some wire clippers, and I would say put them, this is about maybe like 5/8 of an inch right there. So do 5/8 of an inch and then cut that. Alright, now that it's cut, put this right here. And then real quick, I would just make sure, or do a little check, make sure that your hole is drilled deep enough for your little pin you just made. Mine looks good. And now we're just going to super glue it in place. So I'm going to get that super glue from before, and then just put it down the hole. There we go. And you can put the pin in. Now we're going on top, do the same thing, put some super glue in the top of the joint, and then just press it down. Just like that. Now just hold this here and let it dry. If you happen to drill the hole deeper, you might want to use a longer wire peg. I think this one I did is actually a little longer. This one's almost an inch long. So just, I would say cut it longer and then shorten it as need be. There we go. Yeah, that is a perfect fit. And this ball joint will still allow you to keep some of the articulation. But for the most part, if you do it right, it's going to be pretty low. You won't get that much out of it, just a little bit of side swivel. So we can go ahead and put the shoulder pauldrons on. All we're going to do is just super glue a little bit on the like the edge of the shoulder, and then we just put it on. So should be pretty straightforward. Just gonna get this guy right here. I'm just gonna put a little bit of super glue here on top of the arm, on the other side, then here at the base. Then we just get our shoulder pad. I like to line it up so that the top of this shoulder pad, it lines up with the top of the harness straps, and then just make sure it's centered, and then just push it down. There we go. Looking good. Just gonna do the same for the other side now. Again, just gonna line it up so the top is flush, I would say, with the top of the harness, or top of the chest straps right there. There we go. Looks pretty good. Alright, so while that guy's all drying, we're going to go ahead and work on the helmet now. We're going to take the helmet from the knockoff Clone Trooper, put him right here. Just going to heat him up again with the blow dryer, get him ready and prepped for work. So let's do that. Alright, done with that. Now we can go ahead and pop this little helmet off. Sweet, there it is. First thing we're going to do before we get started, just to show you a little quick comparison side by side. Here are the two helmets. The left one is the one we just popped off, and the right one is the Hasbro one. As you can see, this left one is a lot smaller, just better shaped, and the chin's painted in, which is cool. So we're going to take this one, we're just going to improve it a little bit. This one, all you want to do, you just want to pull out this neck peg. Make sure we have this neck, so we'll do that real quick. Blow dry this neck, make it nice and soft, we'll just pull it out. You can use pliers if you have pliers, or a lot of times you just use your fingers. Alright, done with that. So now we can go ahead and see the helmet's nice and soft and squishy now. We can just go ahead and get some pliers and pull out the neck. There's one. And two. And two, there we go. Just gonna put this peg in real quick so we don't lose it. Okay, you can blow dry this to make it a little easier to put in. Alright, we can get rid of this. We don't need this knockoff clone anymore. I just heated up this joint to make it a little easier to pop back in. Gonna go back to our Hasbro figure and just pop it in. Make sure you can see the Adam's apple on the front. Make sure that's on the front of the figure and just push it in. There we go. Now he is ready to have the helmet. Gonna go back to the helmet we just popped off. First of all, I'm gonna make a little room for the ball joint. If you look right now, there's not enough room. The helmet kind of floats on top. So I'm gonna make it a little deeper. To do that, I'm gonna switch my drill bits. Now I'm gonna be using a 5/16 drill bit. That'll go right inside, and it's the perfect width to make the helmet a little deeper. So let's do that. Got our helmet here, got our drill. Before I do this, one thing to be very careful about, do not drill too deep. Like every second or so, take it out and check the height. Because the last thing you're going to do is drill straight through the helmet and you've ruined a helmet. So just be cautious about it, take your time, be slow, don't rush this, because if you fuck this up, there's no coming back from it. Drilled a little bit, now I'm going to check. Needs to be a little deeper. Just going to keep going after it. Let's do a check now. See how he looks. That looks pretty much perfect right there. There's a little bit of extra room so the neck joint isn't just sitting on the peg. There's some room for the hot glue that's going to go there. This is pretty good. All we're going to do now is we're actually going to clean up the paint apps on the helmet. This is a knockoff, so I mean, like, you're not getting the best quality paint here. What I recommend is just getting a little Q-tip, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to clean up the frown. The paint kind of overflows here on the mouth, kind of like how the Stormtrooper does. Just a really quick, easy way to fix that is to just get a little nail polish remover on a Q-tip and just run it across right there. This basically just makes it so the only paint inside the frown is the paint that's actually in there. So there's not any paint just sitting on top of the helmet. You zoom in a little bit. There we go. You can also, if there's some paint overflow on the visor, you can also clean that up a little too. There we go. It's looking a lot better. Looks like mine didn't really have quite the most thorough paint application on this right sort of mouthpiece. On this right mouthpiece. So I'm going to go ahead and paint that in a little bit. It's the same process as before. Just going to get a little Vallejo layer black. I'm just going to paint that in. You could do this if you wanted to use the old helmet too. This same thing would probably work. I just think that the old helmet looks really bad personally, so I'm not going to bother with that. So I'm just going to go here, paint a little black in the line here. It could overflow, it's fine. Do the same on the other side. I know what you're thinking, that looks so bad, but then like you can just wipe it away. And then just get a little bit of the nail polish remover on a Q-tip. And then look at this. Now that, it's looking pretty good. Also just going to paint in a little bit of the top bit where the mouth paint kind of missed. There we go. And now, so the actual actual clone trooper has some gray highlights in the frown, so we're going to paint those real quick. Going to use the same neutral gray as before. Got a little bit of neutral gray on my brush. I'm just going to go with the helmet. Going to paint right there in the middle. Get that focus. I'm going to paint a little bit to the left of it and a little bit to the right. Just like on the real one. Just compare them. There's just no comparison. I mean, this is a knockoff and this is the real one. It's just, what's going on, man? What's going on here? How do you miss this paint app on the chin? I don't understand how this ever got approved, but we got the improved version now. So now that he's like this, there's one final paint app, and that's going to be the red sort of backup light on the fin. Just got a teeny bit of red on my brush. Just a little bit. I'm just going to go boop. And there we go. The backup light is done. Okay, so up next, now the helmet is fully finished, I like to use a little bit of gloss varnish. This bottle's pretty messed up, but this is made by Vallejo. It's an acrylic thing you brush on. And what that'll do is it'll just make the visor nice and shiny, so I'm just going to do that. All you do is pour it out, and then you just paint it on. So here we go. Got it on my brush. Just going to do it like this. I'm going to try and make a nice thin layer over everything, and this will give it that super shiny look that the clones have. Perfect. Alright, so now that the helmet is finished drying, everything's ready to go, we can now just make a hot glue and Vaseline joint. To do that, we're going to take a little bit of Vaseline. You guys have seen me do this like 1,000 times now, but I'm still going to do it anyways. You want to rub the Vaseline on that neck peg. Just needs to be a thin layer, it doesn't need to be too thick. Just make sure you have it fully covered, like that. Once you've covered it in Vaseline, then you can go ahead and get your hot glue gun. You just want to fill up the ball joint to basically the brim of where that hole we made is. Don't need to fill up the entire helmet, just that hole we drilled, because that's where the ball is actually going to sit. So just take it, fill it up. Go. That should be pretty quick. Now we can go ahead and put that ball joint in the peg. Just gonna push it down like that. You want to make sure you line it up, make sure you get the height correct and everything, so it's not too high up or not too low. This looks perfect to me, so just gonna leave that here. If you have any hot glue or anything that gets stuck on the outside, don't freak out about it. It's pretty easy to take off. You can just get a little X-Acto knife, find where it is, and just pull it off. It's usually pretty easy to get off. I'm just getting some little, like they're called like hot glue hairs basically. You can see some like right here. I'm just gonna scrape those off. At this point, he's basically done. The only other thing I would do really is I would just give him a gloss clear coat. The gloss clear coat will not only protect the paint that you just put on, but it'll also allow the armor to blend a little better. The shoulder pads and the helmet are a little bit more matte on the knockoff pieces versus the real ones. So it just gives them that shine that helps them blend in more. Again, I'm going to use crystal clear Krylon gloss. This is a permanent protective gloss finish. It also prevents things from yellowing, so I recommend this stuff. Alright, so the clear coat has dried and he's done. I think he's looking pretty good. Hopefully this tutorial was pretty easy to follow along. I try to make it as simple as possible. I really like this mod. I think this guy looks so good with this mod. And the best thing is that he's finally in scale with like the other clones like Rex. So if you put him next to him, he's actually the same size, whereas the old or the new plastic Hasbro one is too big. So he's like a giant. I think that just generally the fixes to the proportions just help him look so much better. That torso especially, man, like you can see it here, it's so big. I don't know why they did that. The better helmet, the correct proportions, I think this is awesome. Hopefully this works for you guys. I think that this is a really cool figure once you make the fixes, but again, it's kind of messed up that the consumer has to fix this and it didn't just come like this in the first place, because man, he looks amazing. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know how this goes for you. If you do end up doing this fix, tag me, send me a picture or something. I'll feature it on my Instagram. So yeah, let me know. Alright, hopefully this helped out. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.